Hi, I'm Neil Beck. I was a doctor in Perth, Western Australia for 53 years. First of all working in hospitals, then for many years as family doctor in the suburbs, helping to bring babies into the world, treating pneumonia and arthritis and doing quite a lot of appendicectomies and tonsillectomies and vasectomies and cuts and broken bones. But eventually a lot of that work was taken over by specialists. We'd been short of specialists because we hadn't had a medical school in Perth, and all the specialists had to go to London for training, so there weren't enough of them. But then my work was mainly consultations in my clinic and home and hospital visits. Altogether I had 500,000 consultations, home and hospital visits. And I was always interested in the people who suffered the most and got the worst treatment, and that was definitely addicts and people with serious mental health problems. There was just not nearly enough mental health professionals and clinics to help everybody who needed help. And people with mental health illnesses, many of them got no specialist treatment, and we GP just had to do the best we could. But then in the late 1990s we had a terrible epidemic of heroin addiction, so I started to work 10 hours a week in a heroin clinic. And what I discovered was that addiction in 95% of cases was caused by mental health distress that hadn't been properly diagnosed and treated, and people got desperate and suffered, and they got relief from street drugs, but everything that was sold on the streets was addictive. And that was a terrible problem for a lot of people, because in Western Australia in the 1970s they separated the mental health from addiction, and there were mental health clinics and there were addiction clinics. And the mental health clinics refused to see addicts, and the addiction clinics did nothing about mental health. But 95% of addicts had serious mental health problems, usually 2 or 3 or 4, not just one. And they couldn't get seen in the mental health clinics, and in the addiction clinics they got no treatment for their mental health care. I went to all the addiction clinics in Perth and Sydney and couldn't find a single addiction worker who thought that it was important to treat addicts' mental health. So what I realized was that addicts needed dual diagnosis treatment. Dual diagnosis treatment is the diagnosis and treatment of their mental health problems at the same time as treating their addictions. So that's what I did, and nobody else was doing it. And so many people needed dual diagnosis treatment that I soon got extremely busy. And tried to work out how to overcome this whole problem. And what I realized was that mental health and addiction treatment was weak because there were only 2 tools being used. Today we have tools for almost everything. Tools help us to do things quicker, better, easier, for less cost. But in mental health and addiction there was only medicine and talk therapy. and medicine had two terrible problems. One is so many medicines were addictive because the pharmaceutical industry wanted people to stay on medicines for years and years and years. So the commonest mental health problem was anxiety, worry disorders, and all the treatments for anxiety and worry were addictive. All the tranquilizers and all the sleeping medicines, because sleep was a pretty common problem. I had one patient who sadly hung himself because he just couldn't sleep. They just get lie awake all night, can't sleep, get exhausted and confused, and can't function properly and get hopeless, and he hung himself. And all the treatments for sleep were addictive. And the three main treatments, the three main medicines for ADD were addictive: dexamphetamine, Ritalin, and Adderall. And the other problem with medicines was they're too slow. You swallow a tablet or a capsule, and it takes half an hour to an hour to go right down your gut and start to be absorbed into your bloodstream and start to help you. Half an hour to an hour before it starts to help, and 1 to 2 hours before it's working strongly. Just too slow if you're having panic attacks or social phobia, or trying not to smoke, or trying not to drink too much alcohol. And talk therapy was the other therapy. And good talk therapy is great, but it had two problems. One is it's too slow. When you first see a patient with mental health, serious mental health issues, you need an hour, and you don't have an hour. That's how long it takes to talk to them about what their problems are, when they started, what seemed to cause them, what makes them worse. So talk therapy, too slow. Another thing about talk therapy, too costly. To be a therapist, you have to be a highly intelligent person with at least a 4-year university degree, at least a 4-year Bachelor of Psychology, and a lot of people have a 6 or 7-year PhD. And to be a psychiatrist, you have to do a 6-year general medical degree, and then have some general medicine practice, and then do a 3, 4, or 5-year postgraduate psychiatric training. So 10 or 12 years to become a psychiatrist. So they just had to be paid well. They deserved to be paid well, and if we didn't pay them well, we'd be even shorter of them. So and there were many blind areas in mental health and addiction. About 8 I found, just to mention a few. They didn't look for causes. They treat people for years without looking for causes. They treat people as if they're individuals, and mental illness is nearly always a family problem, and they have to be treated as a member of a family. And today's mental health problems often originated from transgenerational trauma. That is, something terrible happened to the grandfather or great-grandfather, came back from the war wounded, became an alcoholic, and caused trouble that emotional disturbances, behavioral disturbances that travelled right down for the next 3 generations. Habits. 60 to 65% of our life is habits. We have to have habits because our brain's got so much to do. It can't supervise everything. A lot of things have to become automatic. That's habits. And making good new habits and breaking bad habits is a very important part of mental health, but never heard anybody mention habit. So lots of blind areas. Over 27 years, I developed a complete package of tools. I've got 8 tools now, and another 2 coming, and I have to cut back on my live streaming because the 9th and the 10th tools are so important that I'm working on them flat out. The tools were videos, websites, an app, live streaming, powder medicines, because powder medicines start to work in 5 minutes, in pocket dispensers, so you can just whiz them out and take the medicine in seconds, anytime, anywhere, even driving the car, and start to get relief in 5 minutes. Powder is so much better than tablets or capsules for mental health problems and addictions. And then the 7th tool is a heartbeat meditation aid. Learn to meditate by focusing on your loud heartbeat, because the usual way you learn to meditate is by focusing on your breathing or on a word, and that's not a strong enough focus to be able to let you forget your all your problems and have a little rest, which is what meditation is basically. If you want a heartbeat meditation, we can send you one for $25 plus postage anywhere in the world. The 8th tool is a bigger powder dispenser, but this is a fruit powder dispenser. So much of the problems we have with addictions is putting stuff in your mouth, and we put stuff in our mouth, or it gets put in our mouth from the day we're born to the day we die, and we love it to taste good. So I made these tools to put powder in them, very tasty powder, so that when you want to make a habit which you may not like very much, like exercise or study or work or something, you keep on rewarding yourself with lovely taste. You think about doing exercise, and then you've got a lovely taste, and then when you start the exercise you have another lovely taste, and that makes it much easier to do something. And you make habits by doing things over and over and over again until their triggers are strong and almost automatic, and the electrical and chemical messages that underlying the action are strong, because everything we do and everything that happens in us is a result of electrical messages running along nerves, or chemical messages from our brain and glands flowing in the blood. And the more often you repeat something, the stronger the triggers get, the stronger the habits get, until they're almost automatic and unconscious. And that is, whether they're helpful or harmful, they become habits, because your brain just can't cope with everything. So tools. Another blind area, by the way, is that we don't realize that mental health problems are emergencies. People have mental health problems that go on and on for years and years, and problems cause more problems, which cause more problems, which cause complications until they're very, very hard to fix, take a lot of time and effort to get fixed, and are rarely ever fixed. You start off with ADD, you're a problem child, you're a problem in the classroom, you don't get a good education, you leave school early, you don't get a good job, or you're unemployed, and then you've got money worries, food and clothing and shelter worries. So a lot of people don't get treated until they crash, when things get so bad that they can't keep going. But by that time, it's so hard, it takes so much work, that they almost certainly never get completely better. So another blind spot is not treating mental health problems as emergencies. I'd like to I'm working on my 10th tool, which I can't explain, but it really covers the whole of mental health, and there's about 70 or 80 topics. And my first video, which I made so that people could watch it and learn from the video and repeat it as often as I needed to, it would save me a lot of time. About 14 years ago, that video was about 10 minutes, and it got 10,000 views in 9 months, which was very good. So I made 8 more videos, and then I made 31 long videos like that, because the first 9 videos, which were watched a lot 12, 14 years ago, gradually people stopped looking at them. I thought, oh, they're not good enough, I better make them again and make them better. So I spent a lot of time and made 31 long videos, and then what I found was that people wouldn't watch, or 90% of people wouldn't watch long videos anymore. They wanted 1-minute videos, TikTok-like videos. So then I made TikTok-like videos, and I've got about 90 1-minute videos. And this 10th tool is a sort of a combination between a video and a book, or videos and a book. And these are some of the items. The first group of items is feel good. To get a good life, the most important thing is to have good mental health. Good mental health means you have good feelings, mostly good feelings, good thinking, good habits, good relationships. Bad health is you have bad mental health is you have terrible bad feelings, anxiety, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, all those sort of things. And you have bad thoughts, and you have bad habits, and you have bad relationships, and you don't want that. Mental health is the most important thing in having a good life. The 2 videos we've got on that 1-minute videos keep your health and happiness system strong, and get a simple, clear understanding of mental health and ill health. The next topic is feeling good makes us smile, then smiling causes our brain to produce even more good chemistry, happy, healthy chemistry, because we've got about 25 chemicals in us that make us feel good. They not only make us feel good, they make us healthy. And feeling good and being healthy go together, and feeling bad and bad health go together. There was badness in my family for 4 generations, from a great-grandmother who started to have babies when she was 16 and ended up having 9 babies by 3, by a husband and a boyfriend and another husband. The first husband left her, he was an alcoholic. I don't know what happened to the boyfriend, but anyway, she got married for the second time when she was 30 and had 2 more babies in 10 months and then another baby. And then she died at 42 from cancer. What would have happened was that this is just to illustrate the fact that happiness and health go together, and stress and distress and unhappiness and sickness go together. She had terrible stress, and that would have depressed her feel-good chemicals, which depressed her immune system, which allowed cancer to grow and killed her at 42 of cancer. Very important to know that we have 25 feel-good chemicals, and we can and we should, by various lifestyle methods, keep those feel-good chemicals strong, which makes us feel good, and then we smile and laugh, and when we smile and laugh we get even more feel-good chemicals, and those feel-good chemicals support our immune system, and our immune system fights infections, allergies, inflammation, autoimmune diseases and cancers. The 1-minute videos in that general field are fix lifelong emotional and relationship problems. Another one is you don't need to go on and on having mental health problems. Another one is what's going on in the back of my mind and why, and how can I get better. Now, while we want to have good feelings most of the time, it's necessary for us to sometimes have bad feelings, and we mustn't suppress those bad feelings straight away. We must sometimes feel frightened and anxious to avoid danger. We must sometimes feel lonely to realize we haven't got enough friends. We must sometimes feel angry because things happen that shouldn't have happened, or didn't happen that should have happened, and sometimes feel depressed. But it's very important how you handle those normal bad feelings. So that most bad feelings are abnormal, but those feelings are sometimes normal, and when they're normal, if you suppress them, they don't go away. They go into the back of your mind and they continue to trouble you, and you're troubled and you don't know why. And unfortunately, some mental health care practitioner will give you tablets to take forever without finding why, because finding why and understanding is the best way to overcome problems and to get or to keep your mental health and physical health. So if you get a bad feeling, feel it. Make sure you know what is going on inside you, or what is happening that's making you feel like that. Because if you don't feel that, you don't realize you've got to try and fix the problem. But don't feel it for very long. Just feel it. You only need to feel it for a few minutes, and you say, oh God, yeah, I'm lonely, I haven't got enough friends, or I'm angry because of this or that, and I've got to fix that. Or I'm sad because of this or that, and I must fix that. So always feel those bad feelings, but then try to stop them. And you stop them by knowing exactly what they are, trying to know exactly what caused them, trying to fix what caused them, with counseling or psychotherapy, or with medicines, or both. Unfortunately, some mental health carers and people only believe in talk therapy, in counselling. I don't believe in medicines, and others, a lot of busy doctors just write you a prescription and haven't got time to talk to you. But the scientific evidence is very clear that talk therapy plus medicines, the right medicines which are not addictive, and preferably powder in a pocket dispenser so they work fast, is the best way to deal with bad feelings. Also, yes, so feel the feelings, feel exactly what it is, try to work out what causes it, what makes it worse, what keeps it going, how to fix those causes, and how to get relief, because a lot of bad feelings are bad habits. Worry is a habit. A lot of anger is a habit. I'm not quite sure about depression, but I think that's probably a habit too. What do I mean by that? I mean that someone who's a worrier is a worrier because they had things that worried them so often for so long that the underlying electrical and chemical messages and triggers became strong and almost automatic and almost unconscious, and so they very easily, their worry is triggered. And you make habits, good or bad, by doing things over and over and over again until the triggers and the electrical and chemical messages are strong. And you break habits, you can break habits in two different ways. The old tough timers would say, go cold turkey. Just stop, just say no. Go cold turkey. Doesn't work for most people. It's very hard, and after 1 or 2 or 3 days they relapse, or they manage by great effort to quit, but 3 months later, 6 months later, a year or two later, something happens and they have one smoke and they're gone. They have one drink and they're gone. They have one temper tantrum and they're gone. It all comes back. So the way that you break a habit is a bad habit is you first of all make sure that you think about it and talk about it and research it and get very clear how your life is going to be better and the life of the people you love is going to be better if you break that habit. When you're very sure that your life is going to be better if you break that habit, it's much easier to break that habit. The next thing is that you can weaken the triggers and the electrical and chemical messages by delaying habit and doing a little bit less of it. So talk about smoking. You decide that your life will be better, your health will be better, your partner will love you more. It won't cost you a lot of money if you stop smoking, and your children hopefully won't smoke if you stop smoking. So you think it's a good idea, I really want to stop it, my life will be better. So we've got some powder medicine which I call Tobacco Fix, which is a mixture of 3 different powders in a pocket dispenser. You got it in your pocket. So when you get the urge to have a cigarette, just whiz it out, drop the powder on your tongue, don't swallow it, suck it, and within 5 minutes it's working. And you make doing the habit inconvenient. So you don't have your cigarettes in your pocket, you have them down the backyard or out in the garage or somewhere, and when you want to have a smoke you have to go out there and get 1 cigarette and bring it back, and so it's inconvenient. And then so you delay it. To begin with, you might be able to delay smoking for 15 minutes. And then when you've smoked 3/4 of the cigarette, you throw the last quarter away. So you reduce it a little bit. And delaying and reducing weakens the chemical and electrical triggers and messages. And when they're a bit weaker, you can delay a bit longer and reduce a bit more. So with smoking, you can reduce your smoking by 1/4 in somewhere between 1 and 3 weeks. Reasonably comfortably. A little bit of suffering each time, just delaying it 15-20 minutes. And then after a couple of weeks and you're smoking 1/4 less, you can start to delay it even longer and smoke even less, only half a cigarette at a time. And you made it inconvenient. You have to go somewhere and get the cigarette. You make it unpleasant. You've got to do 20 push-ups before you have a cigarette, and you don't like doing push-ups. Or you have to do something that you don't like very much before you let yourself have a cigarette. You make it unpleasant in some way. If you can make it unpleasant, and then if you don't want to take medicine, you can take lovely tasting powder in this other this is vanilla powder. I don't know if you can see that, but that's vanilla powder, which is my favourite powder. So I have that in my pocket. I don't smoke, and I just like vanilla powder. Sometimes I eat a bit too much and I have to watch my weight. So instead of doing the habit, which might be smoking or drinking or eating junk food or chocoholism or whatever, when you think of it, you just have a lovely taste, and then you focus on the taste, and that helps you not to think about the habit. And when the taste starts to fade, you have another taste. It only costs you a few cents for each taste. It's not like $5 for a chocolate, and that's another way of delaying things. Yeah, so you feel the bad feelings, so you know what they are, you try to find what caused them, but then you cut them short, because cutting them short weakens them. There's another technique which I call quick switching. So there could be other things that you like doing that you can quickly do, and when you get the urge to do the habit that you want to stop, you quick switch to that other thing. And another thing about being more mentally healthy and having better feelings is to have some morning habits, because sometimes we wake up in the morning not feeling very good, a bit down in the mood, a bit lacking in energy and motivation, and a bit pessimistic, worried about something. But you can make every day better with a good start. So the video we've got on that is called Develop Morning Feel Good Habits. What I do is I listen to my favourite music. My favourite music is the Voice Kids. I just love The Voice Kids, and America's Got Talent, Britain's Got Talent, Romania's Got Talent, Colombia's Got Talent. I just love that music. So I play that from anything from 5 to 20 minutes. And then you can have things that you love looking at, photos of your children or your grandchildren, in my case, and videos I've got of the birds that I feed on my front patio. When I go to the supermarket and buy some food, I just buy some rolled oats, and they seem to like rolled oats, so I chuck a handful of rolled oats out several times a week, and then video the birds when they come. The magpies, one magpie will even take stuff out of my hand sometimes. Usually they'll come within a metre of you, but then they're a bit nervous. But every now and then one will take some stuff out of my hand. So things that you like to look at. I mean, it might be art, it might be crosswords, anything that you like to look at. And then something nice to eat or drink, but no sugar and nothing addictive. Something you like to smell. Yeah, just have morning feel-good habits. Start the day well, and it'll probably be good all day. The next most important thing in life after mental health is enough good relationships. For 98% of human history, humans lived in nature in groups of 30 to 150 people, very close to one another. And that's where our genes and our chemistry developed, and our chemistry still works best if we adopt some of those things. They lived very close because in those days wild animals were dangerous, and if anyone lived on their own they couldn't go to sleep because a wild animal would get them, and there were no brick walls, and they couldn't lock the door and stay inside. They lived in bark huts. So there was no there were no brick walls, and people lived in at least 30 in the group for protection against wild animals, and not more than 150 because there weren't any farms or factories or gardens or anything. The food that they ate was what was growing in the wild. Fruit, nuts, leaves, seeds, stems, roots of naturally growing vegetable and fruit plants and trees. And of course they had some meat, but the meat was very lean meat. It wasn't from cattle stuck in, or chooks or pigs stuck in small pens where they could hardly move and just force fed with grain. The meat they got was very lean. Every day the women and the children and the old folks would go out and gather and always come back with something, and the men would go out, and sometimes they'd succeed and come back with some meat, but sometimes they wouldn't. So the meat, there wasn't a lot of meat, and it was always lean. So we are healthiest, our chemistry works best if we have good close relationships, lots of good close relationships. And in those days, people lived in sort of extended families for the whole of their life. Now, your next door neighbour could have been born in the Northern Hemisphere somewhere. You think you know them, but you really don't. Come from a totally different culture. So our chemistry works best if we have at least some relationships with people who are very like us. They were very compatible. We get on well with. That's good relationships. Very important. As they say, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Well, I say a hug a day keeps the doctor away. And the videos are, one of the videos are get enough closeness, caring, touching and love, and avoid the loneliness and isolation of deafness. It is very important to be your true natural self. If a lot of your relationships or your work or where you live is really troublesome, perhaps you haven't been being yourself. Stop and ask yourself, what do I really like and not like? What am I good at and not good at? What seems natural to me and what seems unnatural to me? And has anything happened in my life, in my family or in my education or in my neighbourhood that's caused me to not be me? Because when you're not yourself, you get into relationships and situations that don't agree with you and you have problems. One of the videos on that is, do I have an inferiority complex hidden under a superiority complex? Become a good communicator. Communication is so important. Misunderstandings can cause so much trouble. And some people are just very poor communicators. I mean, that's the basis of autism. They don't know what other people are thinking. There's a member of my family who's extremely bright, topped his year at university, but was a failure in his profession because he doesn't know what people are thinking or feeling. He's a poor communicator, and he is always thinking about what he's going to say and not listening to what they're saying. Communication is mainly through your face. Your face tells. I know when I see people what's going on inside them, most of them. And some people deliberately have cultivated the habit of facial expressions that are not really them. But you must learn to read faces, you must learn to listen, and the rule is the 30-70 rule. Talk for 30% of the time and listen for 70% of the time. So what are the main mental health disorders? First, there's about 8 or 10 of them. The commonest is worry, anxiety disorders, general anxiety, worry disorders, social anxiety, separation anxiety, panic attacks, obsessive compulsive disorder, and phobias, fear of heights, fear of all sorts of things. And our video on 1 minute video on that is find and fix your causes of worry, anxiety, fear. The next one is depression, and I put bipolar disorder with depression. There's major depression, which is depression alone, and there's bipolar disorder, which highs and lows. Because I've seen so many people who have been told they have depression, major depression, or just told they've got depression, and they've actually got bipolar disorder. And bipolar disorder is the commonest cause of mental health cause of suicide. So it's very important to diagnose it. The best way to diagnose all of these things is to use our Mental Fix It app. Our Mental Fix It app, you just go to your phone and tap the App Store or the Google Play button, download the free Mental Fix It app in a few seconds, answer its questions, just tap your choice of answers to its questions in a few minutes, and get an instant report that tells you the 4 things you need to know. It tells you, first of all, which 6 of our 100 or 90 1 minute videos are going to help you most with your mix of problems. Because people who've got a problem, they've only got one problem. They've usually got 2, 3 or 4 problems, and they all need to be fixed. That's one of the problems of talk therapy. It's so slow that you only find the biggest problem, and the smaller problems, which are only 10 or 20 or 25% of your problem, but they're still a serious problem. And to get completely better, you have to find and fix everything. So the Mental Fix It app instant report tells you, first of all, which 6 of our 1 minute videos you can watch immediately in 6 minutes, or over and over again as many times as you need to, that are going to help you straight away understand your problems and understand what probably causing them and aggravating them, and what's probably going to help them. The second thing it tells you is which medicines are probably going to help you most. Of course, you have to see a doctor about that, because you'll need a prescription. But it's good to do a bit of Dr. Google research about the different options and side effects and problems of different medicines. The third thing is to give you a list of what all your problems are, everything you've tapped on. The biggest problem first. The biggest problem with a score of, say, 15 might be post-traumatic stress disorder, or severe bipolar disorder, or severe major depression, or severe panic attacks. 15. Moderate problems, moderate anxiety, moderate depression, moderate insomnia, or smaller problems, mild anxiety, mild depression, mild insomnia, and it gives you a list of everything, so you know everything, and you know the scores, and you know the total. Each time you do the app check, which you should do often, you get a total score. So the fourth thing it does is it gives you the total score, and it puts the total score in a graph. So when your instant report comes up, you look at it, and there's the graph, and the graph tells you whether your treatment is working or not. If your treatment is working, if you're on the right treatment, the graph is getting better. If the graph is not getting better, the treatment's not working, and you've got to think more about it. So instant feedback about your total score from a graph is very, very valuable. Yeah, so worry, anxiety, fear, major depression, bipolar disorder, ADD, ADHD. The 1 minute video on that is find and fix your focusing, concentration, and ADD, ADHD with UPFAST 60. So the main features of ADD, ADHD are difficulty focusing and concentrating, impulsiveness, very impulsive, which leads to making snap bad decisions and gets you into all sorts of trouble. And most ADD, it's hyperactive, but a few people it's just daydreaming. Yeah. And your diet is important. If you eat a lot of junk food, your ADD will be worse. If you eat healthy, fresh fruit and vegetables and lean meat and avoid the junk, especially avoid confectionery, all those colouring and taste things in confectionery make ADD much worse. So your diet and exercise is very important. I once had a mother bring her 12-year-old daughter to me, and I diagnosed her ADD, and the mother said, well, that's funny. When I was her age at school, they used to make me run right round the oval twice in the morning before classes, and then I could study much better. And that's just confirms that exercise helps your focusing and concentration. And of course, good relationships and a generally well-organized life help. But the medicines are helpful. ADD basically is due to the part of your brain only being half awake, so they give you stimulants. Dexamphetamine, Ritalin and Adderall are the commonest ones, but unfortunately they're all addictive. Because they're addictive, you can only get them from a specialist. You can't get them from your local family doctor who knows you and your family and you know him. You have to go to a specialist, a pediatrician or a psychiatrist, which is costly, and a lot of ADD occurs in poorer families who can't afford to do that, don't know how to do it. They live in the wrong end of town, and so they're sitting ducks for people who are pushing cocaine or crystal meth or ice or whatever. I had a patient who hung himself. He was a 23-year-old pretty smart IT worker, and he was in trouble, and he came to me, and okay, well, you've got ADD, which he didn't know. And about that time he started to get bipolar disorder as well, which about a quarter of my patients with ADD since childhood in their late teens or 20s or 30s develop bipolar disorder. And I said to him, well, I can't prescribe the medicine, I'm just a GP. There's no use me sending you to a pediatrician, you're 23, a pediatrician won't see you, and there's no use me sending you to a psychiatrist because the authorities have made it illegal for those addictive ADD medicines to be prescribed for addicts. But I said, there's one medicine which I never prescribed before, this is about 15 or 20 years ago, which is not addictive. It's a stimulant. It's only about a third as strong as the addictive ADD medicines, and it's called modafinil. But it has the advantage it works for 8 to 12 hours. Those other medicines often only work for 3 or 4 hours. And would you like to try it? And he said, yeah, he wanted to try it. But about that time he'd lost his job because the combination of ADD and bipolar had made him unreliable. So he begged, borrowed and stole enough money to buy 30 of these modafinil tablets, and because he weighed 125 kilos, he had to take 3 every morning, and they worked wonderfully for him. He was just over the moon how much better he was, except that 30 tablets cost him $143 and only lasted him 10 days. When he ran out, he just couldn't get the money to buy some more. And he got so despondent and angry with the system and unemployed that he hung himself. And then I found I could buy modafinil from India for 50 cents a tablet, 50 cents US that is, so for 75 cents, 1.5, they were double strength tablets, so 1.5 double strength tablets, which would cost him 75 cents US, or about $1 Australian, would have fixed him, and he could have afforded that on unemployment benefit. The next mental health disorder is, I call IAD, because it didn't seem to have a name and I thought it should have a name. It's irritability, anger, violence disorder. One woman is killed every 4 days in Australia by a violent partner or ex-partner. And some people who are irritable, angry and violent just are bullies, behaving badly. But a lot of people who have IAD don't want to be angry. They don't want to hurt their wife. They don't want to scare their kids. They don't want to run the risk of injuring anyone and of perhaps ending up the police picking them up and taking them to prison because of. But there didn't seem to be any treatment for it, and what I found was that epilepsy treatment worked for IAD. Irritability, anger, violence disorder was in many ways a bit like epilepsy. These things just happen to them. They have attacks of irritability, anger and violence which they didn't want to do, but they just came on them. And what I found was that what had really happened was that at some time in their past, often in their childhood, things had been so bad that they were often got angry, and they got angry so often that it became a habit. They developed strong irritability, anger triggers and electrical and chemical messages, and so we've got a 1-minute video for that. Cut irritability, anger, violence disorder. And there's post-traumatic stress disorder. Post-traumatic stress is a whole body reaction to something terrible, usually a life-threatening near-death experience. And it's not just an emotional fear, but the body shakes and you sweat and you may vomit or have diarrhea, and this can quickly become a habit. The post-traumatic stress disorder attacks just happen like that, as a habit at any time, and that's very destructive. A lot of people calm themselves down with alcohol and become alcoholics. So have a look at our 1-minute video, Cut Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder, PTSD. And there's another thing that didn't have a name, which I call PTEF, which is post-trauma evil focus disorder. Post-trauma evil focus disorder. Some people have things happen to them that are so bad that they can't cope and they have to think of something else, and they think about Guantanamo Bay or the CIA or something on the other side of the world that's terrible, and I call that post-traumatic evil focus. But not a good strategy, because pretty soon most of the people they're associating with are all living this world of terrible evils, and they aren't able to deal with the original cause of the major problem. And the treatment for PTEF is to block it with fast tongue powder medicine that starts to work in a few minutes. And another problem is broken bonding. The most important thing in our whole life is the bonding with our mother in the first year of our life. We're sort of bonded before we're born, because we start as a tiny little fertilized egg and we grow to a 3-kilo baby before we're born, and everything that helps us grow comes through our mother. So we swim around in her chemistry and her hormones and so on. So we already are very aligned to her before we're born, and then when we're born, we have to be born while our head is small to get through a pelvis, and so we're pretty helpless. We can't do much when we're first born. We breathe and our heart beats and we cry and we wee and we poo, but if we need anything, all we can do is cry and someone fixes us. If someone doesn't fix us, we die. At first, we don't know what's going on. We just cry and we get fed. By day 6, we can tell who our mother is because we can smell her, and we feel happy and good when we can smell our mother close by, and we learn to recognize her voice. And she often, when she's feeding us and cleaning us and drying us and changing our nappy and so on, she often talks to us, and she smiles at us, and she might hum and sing and rock us to sleep. So important, so important. And after about a month or two, one day when she's smiling at us, we smile back at her, and that's wonderful. She loves it, we love it, and we become great smiling friends, or at least that's how it should be. But sometimes something happens that breaks that bond, and if that bond is broken before the age of 2 or 3, can have very serious consequences. Hospitalization is one of those causes. Case I've read where a mother has had to go to hospital for surgery and been in the hospital for 3 weeks, or the baby has had to go to hospital for surgery of some sort and has been in hospital for a week or 2, and it's great while the mother's visiting, but when the mother's got to go back to look after the other children or the visiting hours finished and she leaves, that distresses babies terribly. And that can result in serious changes in depression, in anxiety, in bipolar, and often it's so painful that when the mother and the child come back together again, the child doesn't want to rejoin the mother because they might go through this terrible separation process again. We tend to remember the bad things that happen to us more than the good things, and that's a natural thing to help us to be on guard for bad things happening. So so breaking the bonding is a terrible problem, and if you don't have proper bonding with your mother, you are probably going to have trouble bonding with your wife and your children. It'll affect your relationships like that. So mothering and bonding is so important, and so much of the serious things that we see are due to broken bonding. So I always ask, how do you get on with your mother? What's your relationship with your mother? Because you can't change what happened. What happened, can't be changed, but you can change how you react to it. And if you find that you've got a zero or a bad relationship with your mother, and it was because she went to hospital to have gallbladder surgery and it went wrong and she was away for 3 weeks, and when she came back she couldn't cope with you and they sent you to live with grandmother or auntie or something, if you understand what caused it, it greatly reduces the damage. What I've got written here, I haven't got a video for it yet, but there's so much of us, there's so much of our mum in us. If we have problems with her, we'll probably have problems with ourselves and our partner. To be healthy, keep your immune system strong. Your immune system is cells and antibodies in every part of your body that fight infections, allergies, inflammation, autoimmune diseases and cancers. You want that to be strong, and it's mostly managed by your endorphins, your endogenous morphines. So you need to know how to keep your endorphins up, and your endorphins are feel-good chemicals. They relieve pain and they relieve distress, and that's why feeling good and good mental health is associated with good physical health, because your immune system is stronger. Well, I think that's enough for one day. What's today? Today is Saturday, so I do the live streaming on Wednesday, Friday and Saturday at 7 p.m. Western Australia time, which is 9 p.m. Sydney and Melbourne time, which is 7 a.m. New York time and 4 a.m. Los Angeles time, and God knows what in London, Sweden and Norway, where quite a few viewers. So I now do the Sunday session at 9 a.m. in the morning, so that's in the evening on Saturday, which is a more civil hour, and I might have to change one of the other times to that, because more people live in the northern hemisphere than live in the southern hemisphere, and sometimes almost half our viewers are in the northern hemisphere. So I can't talk to you because we have thousands of viewers each time, but I really want you to let me know what you think and feel. So this live streaming is on TikTok, YouTube, YouTube Shorts, Instagram and Facebook. So whatever platform you're watching it, please send me your comments, your questions and your criticisms. And I go through all the communication I get after this session, and then again the next morning, because a lot comes in overnight. Or email me. The email to send messages is spelt how it's pronounced, which is healthestuff@gmail.com. healthestuff@gmail.com. And if you can't remember that, just remember our website, which is smilefixit.com. smilefixit.com. And if you go to smilefixit.com, you can find the email address, and you can find a lot of this stuff. And we've kept it as simple as we can, and you just tap the links that are important to you. So I'll be back again tomorrow morning, Sunday morning at 9.